This is my Moringa oleifera.
Yep.
It's called the tree of life around the world. In developing countries where they don't have, again, too much money to go out and buy their steaks and so on,
Yep.
this thing saves lives.
It does.
And it's because it's so nutritious. You'll see the bees there. The bees love the flowers.
Yep.
He just flew away. But here we are. He's up here.
Yep.
There they are. They love the, there's, yeah, they love the flowers.
Yep.
What you do is you get these pods, which can be this long, called drumsticks.
There's one there.
Initially they're green. When they're green like this, you can cook them up, and they're like sort of asparagus or something.
Yep.
You just put them into a veggie mix. And if you let it go through to full maturity, the skin sort of browns off and they get much more fibrous. The Indian Sri Lankans community, that's where this plant comes from, and they grow up with it, just like Asians like their rice every day. These people from the subcontinent, they love this stuff, and I have about 5 or 6 different sort of families who come around and they almost get into fist fights over who gets the next lot of either leaves or drumsticks.
Yep.
You can basically eat all the parts, even down to the roots and so on. Of course, if you do that, if you've got millions of them around, you can sort of start killing the tree by getting the roots out.
Right.
I grow this primarily for the leaves. The leaves are very, very nutritious, and so rather than sort of having to grow annuals for my spinach and so on, you just cook this up in a. You have to sort of again, developing world, lack of knowledge about what's going on in the properties of sort of different vegetative products.
Yep.
They would sort of put it into their normal traditional cooking processes and essentially destroy just about all the nutrients, the vitamins, everything.
Yep.
If you put it into a veggie mix, you put it in towards the end when it's only got another minute or two. You can eat them raw. I prefer it just lightly steamed.
Yep.
It's very, very rare in plants, in leaves and so on, to have more than 1 or max 2% protein.
Yep.
These leaves have got 9%. They've got enormous calcium, iron, etc., etc. They're very, very good.
Yeah.
And so I have year round, well, not year because it's deciduous. And you can see if you look in here, because basically in say in Oceania, they grow this thing as an annual, and they never let it get higher than this, and they just sort of chop the thing off at the ground level.
Yep.
And that goes into veggies and so on. Whereas it's actually a tree if you let it go. Now it can become very big. You can see the trunk down there. This one's several years old.
Yep.
And I coppice this back to sort of chest, waist high every year. There's not hi Pam. There's not a there's not a green branch or leaves or anything. I coppice it right back, and you'd say, how on earth is this thing going to recover? And every year, this is one season's growth.
Yeah.
So if you stand back,
Meters and meters.
I mean, you just got to look at it.
Yeah.
This thing's super vigorous.
Yeah.
I had 2 of these initially, and I mean, you just couldn't cope, and I couldn't justify using up space for 2.
Yep. Is this one of your favourites on the block? This
is the only one. Oh no, I sell quite a few, but this one I sell because I don't actually grow to sell. I grow for my own sort of interest, but also health and nutrition and interest in flavour and so on.
Yep.
But this one I sell. It's paid for itself several times over.
Yeah. Cool.
It'll come through.
Yeah.
You can see that I've been selling leaves to a lot of people. Just like they come along and strip them
with bags.
Yeah.
The other thing, did you know about this one that you can press the seed cake and it purifies water as well?
Yes, it does. Yeah. It's a multi-purpose sort of plant.
It's just designed for humans in developing countries. This one.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
This one's unusual. This is a North Queensland native. It's a native bush food.
Yep.
It's called Sterculia quadrifida. It produces a pod about that sort of big.
Yep.
And again, when you open it, the interior of the pod is beautiful. It's a sort of a rich, reddy, sort of almost velvety sort of colour.
Yep.
And inside are all the seeds, and they're about, again, hazelnut size. And you can roast them or cook them or whatever.
And related to chocolate?
I must say, it's a beautiful plant.
Yeah.
And it copes very well in our sort of coastal sands and so on. But the yield so far, because it's a seedling, there's no development work been done on them. it's the yield's been low, but I have to hack this thing back viciously periodically.
And this is the one related to chocolate, isn't it?
To chocolate? What do you mean by
cacao?
No.
No? Stickleia?
Yes, that's right. It's in the same family.
Yeah.
Here's an unusual one. It used to be called Mespilus germanica. This is its first season, and I was so pleased that it started to fruit. Normally you shouldn't leave these things sort of when they're so young. The main aim usually is get the thing going to a sufficient size where then it can start producing, whereas you cripple the thing by diverting energy into fruit when it really is still a baby.
Yep.
But I wanted to get it. So these fruits, it's now been renamed Mespilus no longer. And these are like sort of, astringent persimmons.
Yep.
In that if you eat them when they're not absolutely sort of jam soft, they'll just about kill you. So these, you pick them, and then they get bigger than this. This first season, it's not representative of its full size. Full size is about that big.
Yep.
And you leave them in the kitchen, and so wait until the thing's super soft, and then you can spoon it out.
Yep. And Medlar is the common name.
Medlar. Yeah, right.
Medlar.
And there's a couple of varieties on that. That one's Dutch.
Yep.
So it's a grafted plant.
Mhm.
We won't go around there. We've got to keep moving.
Carissa.
If we keep sort of going around here, again you can see, here's some more of these Carissa. They're just my fence line.
Yep.
And you can see some of my top worked female Kai apples in there. They're all females those.
Yep.
I had a plum tree here, and I just wasn't too happy with the amount of fruit I got. I had multi-grafts on it for pollination and so on, and in the end it just wasn't performing up to scratch. Yep. So in the end I put in 2 varieties of macadamia, and I'll see how they go, or whether both of them are brilliant. Yep. They're 2 different varieties.
So that's macadamia.
741 and 816. Again, bit of a problem, but it's coming through again now.
Yep.
This is a bit of the leftover of my plums. They produce. This one used to be in a pot, and I've just replanted that in ground.
Yep.
This was basically just a pollinator, and that's why it was in that pot, so that it contains it. The roots have now gone through to the soil, so it's a little bit bigger than it would have otherwise been in the pot.
Yep.
That's coffee, standard Washington navel.
Lots of people wouldn't have seen coffee, so I'll get that one.
Oh, well, you won't see. I mean, it's not the season.
No.
The fruits are in sort of winter time.
Yep.
You get a whole lot of fruits. I eat them not for the coffee seeds, because there's a lot of trouble to sort of roast them and so on. Yep. I eat it for the flesh. A lot of people don't know you can eat the flesh.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This is just a Tahitian lime, so standard.
Yep.
I prefer the seedless sort of varieties, less mucking around. Rather than lemons and so on.
Yep.
You've got to use all the space you've got. So here you can see actually when I said I've cut down on my figs, this is a black variety from a local tree where I know the fruits are good. It's either, the lady doesn't know what it is, so I've propagated that up.
Yep.
It's either a black mission or a black Genoa. And down the back there I've got another mango, which is honey gold.
Yep.
This one here, these two,
interesting.
this is called pitaya or dragon fruit. You've probably seen them in the shops and even in Woolies and so on.
Yep.
Great big fruit, depending on the variety. I started off with the smaller one. There's 3 main varieties. I started off with the smaller one, which is spiny, but the spines come off when the fruit ripens. Mainly because it's more self-fertile than these ones that people are more familiar with, either with the white flesh or the red flesh. I went away one winter and I came back, and these things can grow quite big and heavy and so on. And the whole thing had been blown over in a storm, and I thought, oh look, I'll put in a proper sort of uprights and so on. You've got to have them about this high because they only fruit on pendant fronds.
Right.
So you have to get them up to about that good height and then allow sufficient length for the flowering and so on. Okay. The flower is beautiful, but it's a night flower.
Right.
Here's my, this is my Feijoa, and you can see a couple of, well, let's see, there's a few, I'm just picking these at the moment.
Yep, I'm too.
Oh, just fell off. Oh, here's another one, look.
Yeah.
You wait until these fall, there's another one. You know, you get quite a few. They benefit from cross-pollination. So I've got another graft. Did you see it? somewhere here, there.
The fruit. Oh yeah.
It's been fruiting now for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
So I don't know how many more are left. This is just a standard imperial mandarin.
Mm-hmm.
This is my stone fruit. This is a low chill Florida sort of developed breeding program. It's called Tropic Snow. This thing fruits itself to death, like many peach trees. They're super productive to the extent that you literally it might produce 1,000 fruit.
Right.
And if you want nice big fruit and you don't want to break branches and so on with the weight of the fruit, you just have to thin the thing back. And also you have to separate the fruits so that they're not touching one another, and then the disease resistance sort of goes up.
Yep.
So
should people be scared pruning their mature trees, like that they're going to kill them?
No, you've got to look at this. You've got to hack them back, and they just take off. They're short-lived. They're not 100-year life. So 10, 15 years or whatever, depending on the environment. They sort of, because they're so sort of productive. They're sort of a high burn sort of species, and so they're not going to last forever. They can't keep it up.
Yep.
But while you've got them, they really go. And as I said, you've got to. You can see here where I vigorously prune all the time.
Yeah, and that's Tropic Snow, is it?
That's Tropic Snow.
Yeah.
All of those low chill ones, largely out of Florida, they're down to sort of 100, 200, maybe 300 max chill hours, which is fine for Perth. These are self-fertile.
So the other thing with that is why they all developed in Florida, the peach varieties.
Just because the universities and so on, they're just super active. It's like all biological research. The US does more than half of it.
Right.
This is another one of my Pteterias that I mentioned way back around the other end. It's called Pteria campecciana, and its common name, or there's a number of common names, yellow sapote. Sapote is a terrible misnomer. Any soft fruit, if it comes from South America or Central America or whatever, they'll call it sapote, and of course it just creates massive confusion.
Right.
So in the end, if you get serious, you've got to learn the botanicals. Mm-hmm. Very small flowers. This one fruited last year. That's the size of the flowers. Mm-hmm. They're not open, but I spotted and not for depends on each season each year and how the conditions were and so on. But I've got fruit, and I think I spotted one over here the other day.
A little forming one up there.
Did you see it somewhere?
Just there.
Oh yeah. So they finish up sort of this size with a yellow flesh. Mm-hmm. They're a dry flesh. If you think of an egg yolk, it's that sort of dryness, only unlike an egg yolk, they're super sweet.
Right.
And a lot of people don't like that dryness. I do. But they use them in muffins and cakes and all sorts of things, and they give an absolutely beautiful flavour.
Yeah, so Golden's, what was it called?
Well, Canistel, but it's Pteria campecciana.
Okay.
Right, so another one of my Pterias. This is one that many people don't know of. It's going from South America.
Oh, yeah.
It's really just going into its flowering season.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, again, depending on seasons and so on, they're out of sync. And so here's one or two fruit that have just started. That goes a beautiful red colour, and it softens up when it's ripe. Yep. And it's called the peanut butter fruit, and that's exactly what it tastes like.
Really? Wow.
It's really quite strange.
Yeah.
This one's another one that the nurseries get wrong all the time. They keep calling it Bunchosia argentea. Now the argentea, that sort of relates to being silverish, and the argentea underneath is silvery. This is armenica. And plus the fruits are different. The oblong ones are Menica.
Yep.
So this, but you go to all the nurseries, if they've got this fellow at all, they'll mislabel it.
Right, that's a great one.
Here's my custard apple. This is African Pride, and I spotted one for you to sort of take a picture of.
Yeah.
Standard custard apple, beautiful fruit. Mm-hmm. And you can see this is a really mature one. I got this actually from a fruit orchard that was a victim of urban sprawl, and the owner sort of said, well, the bulldozers are coming through in a fortnight's time. There's a whole sort of, a couple of hundred plants here. If you want them, you got to get them out in the next week.
Right.
And a friend of mine and myself, we said, well, if we've got to pay $600 for a backhoe and a truck and so on, you know, we're not going to do it. And so we dug these things out, and you can see the size of the trunk. The trunk down the bottom hasn't changed much, and we dug that out and brought them home and got them to sort of take.
Yep.
Here you can see, I get probably 50 fruit. You can see they're still, these things fruit basically in winter time.
Yep.
But if you look around, because they've got a green skin, they're hard to spot. So there's a big one over there. Yep. There's two up there. Yep. One there. There's two in there. One here.
Yep.
So you get a lot of fruit, and
they're delicious.
They're delicious. They're delicious.
Yep.